All right, it's week 8 of the fantasy football season, and there was a ton of action, and we learned a lot of things about what we can expect for the rest of the season in fantasy football. Let me give you my 10 things I learned from Sunday's slate of games. Okay, first up, Kyle Pitts, wild card. That's simple as that. Kyle Pitts is the ultimate wild card tight end. I know everybody's been talking about it for multiple years now. He's up and down, he's hot and he's cold. Monster day today, 25 fantasy points, 5 targets, 4 receptions for 91 yards and 2 touchdowns. Now, I'm not 100% sure that he got in on that second touchdown, but yes, first touchdown since week 1 with the Falcons. And someone said Kyle Pitts is kind of like a house cat. He'll just kind of appear, one play, will get 140-yard reception, and then you never see him again. But today, he was pretty consistent, and he's looked good the last few weeks. 7 receptions last week against the Seahawks. It feels like Kirk Cousins is finally starting to build a rapport with him, but Kyle Pitts is just like this ultimate wild card guy. We've been expecting for 3 years he was going to be running the league as the number 1 tight end in the NFL, and we really haven't gotten that whatsoever. It's been a painful ride for all of us, I think, who invested in Kyle Pitts, but a monster day today, and he's got a pretty decent matchup next week against the Dallas Cowboys. But I think first and foremost, you can't ever really trust him truly. Okay, next thing I learned, how about the Cleveland Browns offense? I think Jameis Winston now makes this offense completely viable. We've seen how dismal it's been with Deshaun Watson at quarterback, and my man Cedric Tillman, last 2 weeks have been monster performances. You trade away Amari Cooper, Deshaun Watson goes down, in comes famous Jameis, and he's been lighting it up. 18 points last week, 28.9 points this week, including the game-winning touchdown, had 2 touchdowns on the day, 99 yards receiving, couldn't quite get over that 100-yard mark. But yeah, this offense for Cleveland just looks so much better, and it looks like we could actually trust these guys. If we can get David Njoku healthy, keep him out there, he's an option. Nick Chubb, 5 fantasy points today. Wasn't the best performance, he didn't get in the end zone, but it's just like not a slog anymore. It's like, it feels like there's actual creativity, actual life. The offensive line is getting healthier, and I think Cedric Tillman is got a legit shot at being a number 1 wide receiver in fantasy for the rest of the season. Somebody's got to get the ball, and Jameis Winston is not afraid to sling the rock, and Kevin Stefanski is going to throw the football. He is not just going to sit back there, do this run into a wall. There's been open plays out there. Deshaun Watson has just been so dreadful for us. I think Tillman's a great guy, and really all the Browns guys have me optimistic for the rest of the season. Okay, this is probably an easy lesson. The Detroit Lions are the best fantasy offense, and I want any part of this offense. Sam Laporta gets into the end zone. Jahmyr Gibbs has a huge day, 20 points. I mean, David Montgomery rushes for a touchdown and throws a touchdown. Amon-Ra scores. Jared Goff threw like under 90 yards, but had 3 touchdown passes. It was just kind of a crazy day. They throw up 52. They're just monsters all around it, and they show no signs of slowing down. It was a little bit of a slow start for this offense from a fantasy perspective to start the season. They really weren't reaching their height, couldn't get over 20 points in regulation through their first few games. Now they are been lights out the last few weeks, lighting up the Cowboys. They lit up the Seahawks a little bit. Did a really good job against Minnesota, and obviously today against Tennessee, an absolute bloodbath. But Jahmyr Gibbs, back-to-back huge performances, and he's really going really well with Montgomery. We were a little worried about Montgomery last week, has a really down week against Minnesota, bounces back with 2 TDs. Even with Amon-Ra, only 2 catches, still got into the end zone to make it a valuable week for you. Maybe not what you want as a top-end wide receiver when the offense scores 59 points, but hey, Sam Laporta, we've been missing him, finally getting back into the end zone. You can't get enough of these Detroit Lions on offense. Khalif Raymond ran back a punt. You're going to get a touchdown for that after he had a huge day last week against the Vikings. There's just so many parts to this offense. Even when Jameson Williams comes back from a suspension, I still think they can field all of these guys. There's just way too much potential for this team. So Lions offense, the best for us in fantasy. Okay, Jalen Hurts, still that dog. He's still a great fantasy quarterback. It's been a little bit up and down this season, but 4 touchdowns on the day, 3 on the ground. That's what we've been missing from Jalen Hurts. He hasn't been running it, but the last 2 weeks, 5 touchdowns on the ground. That's the old Jalen Hurts we know. A monster 35-point day for us today. Even added another pass and he didn't turn the ball over. No turnovers for him, and that's where he's really struggled, and he hasn't capitalized on this. And the Eagles are starting to look like the Eagles of 2022, this juggernaut on offense. And even the early part of 2023, those first 10 games, A.J. Brown has a nice day. He was a monster 2 years ago. Devontae Smith with a huge touchdown catch. Obviously, Saquon, more than satisfactory. And even my man Jake Elliott, the kicker, who Nick Sirianni refuses to use. 15 points on the day. Really just solid all around. This is the Eagles team that we all have invested in, and I think it kind of starts with Jalen Hurts not turning the ball over and getting him in on the ground. Now, maybe you want one of those touchdowns to go through the air to one of our receivers, or maybe if you're a Saquon Barkley owner, get Saquon another one. But I think they're starting to figure things out. They really kind of annoyed all of us, I think, the last few weeks. There was just no consistency. There was kind of no rhyme or rhythm to their offense, and today I think was a huge stepping stone for them, and I think we're getting back to what we expected with all these talented pieces on this Eagles offense. Okay, how about the Dolphins are kind of viable again with Tua Tagovailoa back in the lineup at quarterback. Now, it wasn't amazing today. Tyreek Hill, 13 points, but he had 9 targets, 6 receptions, 72 yards. Didn't get into the end zone. Devon had a solid day on the ground, and they managed to score over 20 points for the first time this season. Put up 27. They did lose to the Cardinals, but we needed something. This offense has been absolutely dreadful with the quarterback play, and, they really weren't great before Tua went down, but I think these are positive signs. If Tua can stay healthy, I know that's a big if now with the concussions, we're going to see a little bit more consistency with this Dolphins offense. Are we going to see peak 2023 Dolphins fantasy output? No, I don't think we're going to see that. Mostert had another good day. That's 2 consecutive weeks. Raheem Mostert's been solid. I don't think we're going to reach those levels of Dolphins offense, but I think it's going to be better. It has to be better. It really can't be much worse. And we just need more consistency out of our guys. Devon the run game's going to open up if we can actually throw the ball, get it to Tyreek Hill, get it to Jalen Waddle, and things are going to be okay for us, I think. It's been a really, 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 really tough start to the season if you're a Dolphins fantasy football owner, but I think it's going to be turning around. We still need that big Tyreek Hill monster performance for us, but it definitely looked better. I was wrong, maybe, potentially. Fringe alert, fraud alert on my part. I thought this offense was completely cooked, even if they had Tua, but I really liked what I saw from them today. I know the Cardinals defense isn't the best, but you got to start somewhere, folks. Decent matchup next week against Buffalo, in Buffalo, kind of like the must-win game for the Dolphins. So I think they're going to break out all the stops. This is kind of what started their free fall. Let's see if they can counter what they got in week 2 and have a big fantasy performance from all our dudes. Okay, Texans running back Joe Mixon, the best fantasy running back when he has been healthy this season. He has been an absolute dog for us. So in the games he's finished this year, 26.8, 27.2, 26.4, 23.4 today against the Colts. Had another touchdown. He's been awesome. He's got 5 touchdowns on the year and he playing in those games, and he had 8 points in the game. He went out after only 9 carries against Chicago, missed the 3 weeks in the middle there, but this offense runs through Joe Mixon. He's gotten 100 yards rushing every game he has finished, another 100-yard performance today. He's been the number 1 fantasy running back when he's healthy. And it's like, have you survived that time? I think we're going to get huge games from him again. The Jets this next week coming up, they have a horrible run defense. Now they do run into the Detroit Lions in 2 weeks, one of the best run defenses in football, but this offense has been struggling. Stephon Diggs went down with a weird non-contact injury. Not sure how long he's going to be out for. Nico Collins is still out, so they're going to have to rely on this run game. And the offensive line, they can run block. They sure as hell can't pass block for CJ Stroud, but they can run block. I think we're going to be looking at more huge performances from Joe Mixon in the coming weeks, and it's how the Texans want to play. They want to run the football. They want to play grindy, ugly games, and they love giving it to him in the red area. We thought this was going to be, what mouths are they going to feed? Is it going to be enough football for Joe Mixon? Well, he's the only mouth getting these touchdowns, it feels like, for the Texans. So Joe Mixon, RB1 in fantasy, if he is healthy. Okay, you can't trust Colts receivers if Anthony Richardson is in at quarterback for the Colts. Another just dreadful performance from Michael Pittman we'll use today. 6 targets, 1 catch, 16 yards. 1 catch for 16 yards. 2.26 fantasy points. 9 points last week. His best performances this season are with Joe Flacco at quarterback. I mean, he hasn't had double digits yet with Anthony Richardson at quarterback. It's that simple. Like, that he hasn't had a double-digit game with Anthony Richardson. Now, Josh Downs got into the end zone, potentially should have had a second one. Now we're getting Jonathan Taylor back in the mix. This team's going to run the football. He's going to poach a lot of our touchdowns. It's just a drastic difference in our fantasy values when we're looking at Indianapolis Colts wide receivers when Anthony Richardson is in at quarterback versus Joe Flacco. Joe Flacco is super accurate. Joe Flacco gets the ball to his guys. He throws for a ton of yards. Anthony Richardson's the exact opposite. He's super inaccurate, doesn't complete a lot of passes. If you happen to be the guy he hits for the big home run throw, you're in for an okay day. You should have a nice day. But there's no sort of consistency with this. There's no sort of volume. There's no sort of like high reception games for you. And we just really can't sustain that. And that sucks. You drafted guys like Michael Pittman, like Josh Downs to be high fantasy wide receiver performers. And Anthony Richardson has just kind of not lived up to any of the hype we expected this season coming into fantasy. He's been a total bust, and Colts receivers as a whole just cannot be trusted moving forward. Okay, surprise, surprise, Devante Adams isn't the solution for the New York Jets offense. Offense still struggled again today. They lose to the Patriots, but 2 games with the Jets, 6 points last week on 9 targets, only 3 receptions, 6 targets this week against the Patriots, who the Patriots defense has been awful this season. Only 9.4 points, 4 receptions, 54 yards, no touchdowns yet for them. This is bad. People drafted Devante Adams late second round, early third round. I know he slid a little bit with the concerns in Las Vegas, but they thought, getting traded to the Jets, this is going to fix it. This is going to be great. The Jets offense is just terrible, and it's bad for fantasy on top of it. Rodgers throws it to random people. Garrett Wilson gets some touches. They don't even give Breece Hall those red zone carries. They give it to Braylon Allen, but it's super inconsistent. This is just a total disaster, I think, from the New York Jets as a whole. Let's not get started on their kicker, who can't make kicks for us. He's always on the bench list for us. But this is obvious. There was a lot more problems with the New York Jets and an aging 31-year-old wide receiver who's very diva-esque, if from what I saw on the Netflix show. It's not going to fix it. It's not going to make things better. And I don't think we can rely on him whatsoever to give us any sort of real fantasy performances the rest of the season. 26 points against Baltimore, and it's been dreadful since then. Only 10.9 week 1, 8 points in week 3, sat out 3 weeks before he got traded. Now they have Houston coming up and Arizona, not great secondaries they're going against. So there could be some potential here, but it feels like there's just so much wrong with this Jets offense, and Devante Adams is not going to fix it, and he's not going to be good for us the rest of the year. Okay, DeAndre Swift is a must-start running back in fantasy football. 4 straight 100-yard games, 4 straight really, really good performances. 29.5, 20 points, 21.9, had the bye in week 7, and a solid 18.9 today. 129 yards rushing and a rushing touchdown. Had a nice long one today. The Bears offense wasn't great today. It was really bad, honestly. But they ran the football. DeAndre Swift had the big run. They grinded it out late in this game. Probably should have had the second touchdown. Roschon Johnson poached him, but we kind of expect that with this. But DeAndre Swift has turned into a guy that we're like, oh man, this is a bust. This is terrible after a dreadful first 3 games. He's been awesome. They're running the football way more effectively. And I just think we're going to keep seeing this. They're at Arizona next week. Arizona, another team who's not great, but they're doing a better job stopping the run. I'll be interested to see how these matchups go, especially after the way the Bears lost today. I think they're going to try and get the running game more involved earlier. I think they were late to it today. The offense couldn't do anything the first 3.5 quarters. They start going back to the run game. They get the big touchdown. They start moving the football. That's what we need to see more of from the Bears. But DeAndre Swift is a must-start guy now each and every week, and you gotta feel great about the way he is trending. And finally, I think we all knew this deep down, but let's just affirm it. If you are playing the Carolina Panthers defense in fantasy, start those guys. I mean, Bo Nix with his best ever NFL day today, 284 yards, 3 touchdowns through the air, ran for another touchdown. Cortland Sutton with 100 yards receiving. I mean, this Panthers defense is just so bad. We have got to be licking our chops. If you are facing the Carolina Panthers, play your guys. Everybody's in for a big day. I don't think anybody's had a bad performance against Carolina lately. I mean, this defense is getting carved up by every single team, every single player. They can run. They can't stop the run. They can't stop the pass. It's just a whole cavalcade of disaster. So Carolina Panthers on the schedule. Play those guys. They are our fantasy juggernauts for our running backs, wide receivers, quarterbacks, and tight ends. Everybody's going to feast when you play the Panthers. But that's going to do it for us today. Let me know down in the comments below what you guys took away from fantasy football this past Sunday. Who are you high on? Who are you starting to worry about? We'll be answering your comments throughout the week. If you haven't already, drop a quick like on this video. Hit that subscribe button. We got all the fantasy football content daily you could ever want. I'm talking must-starts, running backs, wide receivers, quarterbacks, tight ends for every single matchup. Your must-target waiver wire guys, your must-start defenses, your kicker tier rankings for your kickers, your live stream Q&As. We'll be answering all your questions throughout the week. Just drop a comment on a video or check out one of the live streams. If you want to check out the links down below, Underdog Fantasy, sign up code using the catch, get up to $1,000 in deposit cash, Mac, and we usually have a free pick 'em for you guys throughout the week. So again, like, subscribe, and share, and we'll see y'all tomorrow.